All right, let's take on our next story. You know, there's no denying the fact that ahead of the 2027 elections, a lot of jostlings and groups would take center stage. Supporters of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, Peter Obi, unveiled a new civic platform known as the Village Boys Movement in Abuja. Addressing supporters at the launch, the convener, Mazi Tochukwu Ezeoke, who styles himself as a national village headmaster, describes the initiative as a disciplined nationwide movement anchored on earned prosperity and service-driven leadership, rather than proximity to power or display of affluence. While the French have a popular phrase here, translated to mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a clear indication that the battle for 2027 has started. It's also a very strong signal that Peter Obi is going to contest the coming election, even though we will not be sure
of the
as
platform.
of today of which platform. And it's also clear that he's ready to mobilize people, you know, to drive his cause. I believe this village movement is a counter-narrative to the city movement, which was established in 2022, but has become more active now in the past few months. I believe that it was deliberately coined to show that, okay, you are city boys, we are the village people. I believe the two has strengths and weaknesses. The city boys give the impression of power, of strength, of influence. You remember in those days when we were in the villages, who are the rural boys, who are the village boys? When the city boys come from Lagos, they take over our girls, you know, come with new fashion, take over the parties, you know. But we are also...
And money power.
And money power. But we are also stronger than them in other areas. Okay. We lock them into wrestling. We lock them to the stream in the villages to go and swim, or to go and make heaps of yams, you know, something that we knew they would not be able to do. So I think that the village movement, village boys movement is a good concept, because it's giving the impression that they are representing the downtrodden, the masses, the poor people, you know. But the concept is not the same as messaging, because I noticed something from both sides, from the village boys. I felt that if the idea is to say to Nigerians that we are mobilizing rural communities and all that, then launching it in Abuja, you know, was not tactical enough. If I happen to have been one of them, I would have decided to launch it in a rural area, probably in downtown Lagos or Mushin.
That's the ideal setting.
That's the rural community that will actually tell you, you know. So that may give us suspicion that, okay, is this concept really, you know, reflecting the philosophy of you know. And I also think that the city boys did something by picking Obi Kubana, you know, to lead the South East. I think it was a strategic thing, more so that it comes from Anambra State, the home base of Peter Obi. But in the case of the village boys, they pick Mazi Tochukwu, you know, it's okay. If I happen to have been able to advise them, I think that still gives a narrow prism, you know, somebody from your own, you know, you could have picked somebody that is not actually from your own area. But I think that both city boys and village boys, there is something missing, which is the class variables and also the gender insensitivity. Because when you're talking about village boys and city boys, you are not talking about women. And I think in Nigeria, we have, the last election, women represent about 44.something% of the voters. So I think a concept that will be all embracing, you know, not something that gives the impression that you are not taking women into consideration.
Okay. BK, also, the village boys are here, led by the village headmaster.
Well, the so-called village boy movement is a natural response to the City Boys group, which is anchored on supporting President Tinubu to get re-elected. But the village boy movement, according to them, is service-driven, is to provide service-driven leadership rather than proximity to power or display of wealth, which is a way of saying that the people behind the City Boy movement openly display wealth, and they are flaunting their closeness to the seat of power. So Ezeoke, who calls himself the village headmaster at the launch in Abuja, says it represents a moral alternative to the City Boy culture. So according to him, the group's motto is unbought, unafraid, unstoppable. Unbought, unafraid, unstoppable. So they plan to do a 2 million march across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So those rallies will, according to them, be peaceful, lawful, and volunteer funded. So the mobilization for that rally will be village by village, ward by ward, and polling unit by polling unit. Well, I hope they can live up to the hype, live up to the promise. It's not enough to respond to the City Boys group by forming the Village Boys movement. You have to be ready to match President Tinubu's expanding support base.
Okay.
You have to be ready, and contesting election in our country is not cheap.
You know,
I've not seen anybody who wins a big election without spending money. Election in our country is capital intensive. To mobilize people, you also must be ready to spend money. You fuel vehicles to move people from place to place. So if they are saying that they have enough volunteers to propel Peter Obi to victory, good luck to them. But I know that in our country, you need resources to win an election. Some people even sell their houses, they sell their property to be in good stead to win an election. And that's the way it is. Nearly every politician is involved in vote buying now. I saw that the EFCC registered its presence during the election in Abuja. I saw a lot of their operatives wearing their red jacket and all that. But it is difficult at this time to defeat vote buying. It is difficult because it literally has come to stay as part of our electoral culture.
And doesn't necessarily start on election day.
Even sometimes weeks to the election, they're already going and entering people's homes and putting money in their hands. So it's much more sophisticated. Look at what happened in Ogun State, where a governorship candidate gave people preloaded credit cards. Preloaded credit card, because at that time we had this Naira repainting exercise and people could not lay their hands on physical cash. So he then decided, okay, let me give people preloaded credit cards. And that was what he did. He's facing prosecution now, the governorship candidate in Ogun State. So that's to tell you how sophisticated our politicians have become in terms of weaponizing poverty and buying people's votes. But my feeling is that once they've managed to seize power, they are not going to be responsible to the ordinary man, because in their hearts they bought their way to victory. So people should reject politicians who are asking them to take money and then vote for them. People should decide in their hearts who merits their votes.
Yeah.
And it should not be because such people offered money. No. It's really sad, but I'm happy that we now have a village boy movement in response to the city boy movement.
Yeah.
But to me, this is just symbolism.
All right.
What the real election is what we are focused on. Let's see how far they can go with helping their candidates to win the election.
Yeah. Wale, on a final note, quickly, when things like this happen, the INEC, the electoral umpire, takes the rap, and no attention is paid on the politician who is messing the table up.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yes, we need more effective enforcement regime that can make politicians to be accountable. And I think as journalists, we need to help INEC to achieve this, and also civil society organizations. Yeah. And I also think that beyond what Bagida has said, you also need structure to win a party. You need network. You also need strategy for mobilization to be able to organize
I must stop
the party
you
and to
time
win
is
the
tight.
election.
But let's thank you, Adewale Adeoye, for your time. BK, we thank you for your intervention too.
Thank you.
And many thanks to the backroom boys. So that's it on the program today, Journalist Hangout on Sunday. But join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the show, which takes the airtime at 5 p.m. You may watch a repeat broadcast of this particular episode tonight at 11:30. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Citizen Jones. Bye-bye now. Take care.